Hello, this is Sue from dragoncreations.co.uk, and today we're going to be making this, which is the two coaster, but we're going to put a spin on it, so I shall show you that in a moment. So I'm just shutting Mo out again, he's very shouty. Right, okay, numbers. I mixed up 120 grams, mine's a 1-to-1 resin, so that was 63A 57B. Then I decanted 24 grams of grape purple pigment tint, 5 drops, 24 grams of clear 1, 24 grams of mica 1, 24 grams of mica 2, and 24 grams of, clear 2. And my micas are tail green, and I used my sturdy spoon, a good heaped spoon, so it goes up the handle slightly. So that's a good heaped spoon, and that's tail green, and my own purple. Now I just black, a purple, a light purple, a bit of white. I just mixed my micas together until I got a really nice purple that I liked. So don't be afraid to mix your micas, because you can make any colour that you want to. And I couldn't find a deep purple that I really liked, so I made my own. And now I do quite like it, actually. I use it in a lot of things. So, okay, just spray my moulds. Light spray. And we shall go in with our pigment tint. Take Mr. Sticky out for the moment. So this was 5 drops in this. So I'm just going to go around the edge, touching the edge of the mould. Taking my time because we don't want fat squircles. Can you hear him shouting in the background? He's not happy. He wants cuddles again. Okay, so I'm just making sure I get it right in the edge and the corners. And then I'm going to go back on top of what I've just laid. I'll just straighten my lines up slightly. By Jove, that's a square almost. So I'm going on top of what I've just laid. Just till I've used it all up and they look even. And then I'm going to save literally the scrapings, so I'll put that to one side. Okay, now we're going to go in with a clear one. Make sure it's touching your tint that you've just put down, and push your tint back with it so you can now square off your corners. Again, it's just worth taking your time in this, and the reason the clear's there is because we want our cracks to be definite, or our scales to be definite. We don't want them to be muddy. and that can happen if your tint goes in too far. So I'm just trying to square it off slightly. But I'm always going on top of what I've poured. And if your squircles close up, don't worry about it, that's fine. As long as you use it all up. Just going to scrape this out. Excuse me leaning over you. There, that's our clear one in. Quick debubble. Now I can see a bubble that's stuck to the bottom of the mould, so I'm just going to bring that up with my tool before I go in for a debubble. Any more stuck? There's one there. Just give it a good debubble. There. Okay. So this is our mica one. Oh, excuse me. And we're going to puddle pour. Right in the middle. See, dragon scales are quite easy to do. It's just getting your measurements right. It took me a while to work this recipe out to get the nice cracks in them. Make sure your squircles are the same size. Plus, I must admit, it is my favourite effect. Out of doing blooms and blings and things like that, I don't know. I think it's because the challenge it has for me of making larger cracks and smaller cracks. This one. Because I do still tweak the recipe for the moulds that I use, but every time I do, I will give you my numbers at the beginning of the video so that you should get the same results as I do. Because I think if you have a recipe of something that you can do, you should share it. There's no point in just keeping it to yourself and saying, oh look, I can do this. And everybody else goes, oh, but I can't. I'd like to, but I can't. So I like to share. Right, a little bit of waffle there, sorry. Quick debubble onto the mica. Get rid of those micro bubbles. And as you can see, what's happened here is the mica is going underneath the clear, and that's what we're looking for. Okay, mica 2, my lovely purple. I love this colour. Again, just puddle pour. And if you get it in the ring, don't worry. It's a bit of added decor. A bit more in that one. And I must say a big thank you to everybody who's been so kind and said that they can now do dragon scales. You've been so kind to me. But as I say, it's my favourite effect, and I'd like other people to be able to achieve it. Oh, I'm so sorry. I've punched you. Don't know why I did that. Got all a bit wobbly there. I'm going to move these up because I had them a bit close. Right. Okay, going for a nice debubble on the mica. So all that purple we've just put in has now gone underneath the green. So it's mostly disappeared. Okay, and now we're going to go in with our last clear. Take my stick out so you can see. And again, we're going to puddle pour and put a tiny bit of height into it. Just so you can see the bottom of the mould. Same with this one. So I can just see through to the bottom of the mould. Again, make sure you use all your clear. And as I've said before, now is the time to add glass or any effects if you want to put something in the middle. I don't do that because I like to get really tight cracks in the middle. You know what I mean? Okay. Right, debubble. Right, and that pigment that we saved that tiny bit of pigment from earlier, so that our scraping pigment, it really is a small amount. I'm just going to put that right dead in the centre, but I'm going to let it just fall out of the cup. I'm not going to put any height in it because I don't want it to move. And the reason for that is, on most dragon scales, you will end up, if you can't get really, really tight cracks for whatever reason, you will sometimes, or the majority of the time, end up with a tiny bit of clear in the middle. So from now on, I've decided I'm going to add some of the tint to the middle. But as I say, I don't want it to move, so I'm just going to literally let it fall out of the cup. I've got the cup as close as I can to the resin. And I'm just letting gravity pull it out. So that's it. Just with our scrapings, we've made a centre. Sorry, just wiping the sticks off. And then go in for a lasty bubble. Making sure we go all over it. And I would not recommend that you use a torch on these moulds because they are so flimsy that you will just burn your mould to your resin. So I don't recommend using a torch in silicone anyway when you've got silicone, when you're using silicone moulds, but definitely not on these moulds. There. Right, I shall say this is step 1, and I shall leave these to set. I shall cover them and leave them to set, and then we shall go on to step 2, and that's where I've got a little bit of a twist for you. So I shall see you in the next bit. Bye for now. Right, okay, these are all nice and set, and I'm not going to demold them. Right, what I am going to do is give my moulds a nice wipe with alcohol. Make sure there's nothing sticky or any fingerprints on them. I'm also going to give my big mould just a quick light wipe in the middle, and then we're going to centre them as best we can, and then press the edge of the mould down, and in the middle just give them a good press so we've got a nice seal. Do the same with this one. Centre them. Oh, knock it out centre. And then give them a good press down. And once I've done that, I shall just give them a quick spritz. Help get rid of any bubbles. Okay. Right. What we're going to do is we're going to do attempt to do dragon scales on the outside as well. I don't know if it will work, but I'm going to treat it like a trinket tray, so hopefully it should work. Right, measurements. I mixed up 150 grams, which is 79A, 71B. Then I decanted 30 grams with 5 drops of the same pigment tint that we used before, the Great Purple. Then 30 grams clear 1, 30 grams mica 1, 30 grams mica 2, and 30 grams clear 2. And it's exactly the same micas and pigment that we used in the first one. So the tail green and the purple that I made. So I'm going to move them off to one side because I need a little bit of space. Okay, so we're going to, as I say, we're going to do this like a trinket tray. So we'll pour our pigment in first. Make sure you touch the outside of the mould. Okay, and the same in this one. In theory, this should work, but having never tried it before, no, I can't see what I'm doing. There we go. Whoops. missed a spot. I can see that now. Okay, let's just make sure they're even. No, I've missed a spot here, see? Make sure, we'll make sure our pigment's touching both sides actually. So just go back on top of your pigment. Just a quick look round the back, yeah. And then I'm going to save literally the scrapings so that we can colour the centre. A bit more in this one. Okay, that's enough for the centre. Right, just go in. Oh, throwing things everywhere now. Go in and get rid of any bubbles that you can see. Don't forget to check around the inside mould as well. But don't move it because we don't want the resin to go underneath it. That's why we've pressed it down. And there's a hair there that I've spotted. I think I've just dropped it again. Oh, stubborn bubbles in this one. Right, okay. I'm going to go in with our clear one and I'm just going to pour it on top of the tint. Oops. On top of the tint, I said, not on the mould. Use it all up. Okie dokie, so that's our first squircles down. Make sure I get every last little bit out I can. Going for a gentle debubble. I've got some bubbles stuck there. I'm just going to try and get them up. Come on, you little monkeys. Another hair. Right, okay. Now we're going to go in with our first mica. And as normal, we're going to puddle pour. And I'm going, the first mica you put down, if you're just doing a 2 mica and you don't want to do tricks and flicks with it, will be your dominant colour. So for the inserts, my green was my first mica, so I'm going to put the purple down this time first. So just puddle pour right in the middle. Now at this stage it is not going to touch our clear, but we should be alright because our next mica and our clear too should push it over the edge if my measurements are correct. I hope my measurements are correct. I mean, the other thing we can do is we can also just help it along a little bit. So I'm just taking it to the edge of the mould. I'm not going to push it over. And that way we're guaranteed when we put our next mica in, it will tip over to the edge. I'm just leaving a tiny, tiny gap. And the only reason our mica's not moving is because the moulds in the middle are prominent at this stage until we fill the whole mould up. So I'll do the same with this one. Okay, so that's all ready to tip over now. Going with a quick debubble. Just where we've been poking at it, we can get rid of some of the bubbles that we might have created. Okay, now we'll go in with our mica 2 and puddle pour this, and it should hopefully push the purple over. It's not gone over yet, has it? Okay, well, maybe the clear will push it over. Oh, it started to go over on this side. Give it a deep bubble. Okay, and then our last clear. Puddle pour as normal. Just check my levels. Every last little drop we can get. There we go. Deep bubbly. Now it's interesting that that hasn't gone over, so I'm just going to push that over slightly. I suppose I could do it with my heat gun. No, I won't. I'll just give it a little coax. Come on. See, it has gone over, but it's just sticking to the edge. I don't want to play with it too much, but I do want those corners to be covered. So I'm just lifting the mica up to there. As I say, this may not work, but you never know till you give it a go. Come on, mica. I mean, it might have done this by itself if I'd left it alone, but I'm just going to guarantee that those corners have got some type of colour on them. There. I mean, we might only get cracks around the edge. And with our little tint that we saved, I'm just going to plop that right in the middle. Just to add a little bit of colour to the middle. So our moulds are full. They've got a tiny dome on them. So hopefully they should contract and move and groove, and we might get dragon scales. If not, we'll get an interesting pattern which will be the same colour as the insert. So either way, something fascinating will happen. It might be I have to find a thinner square to go in. There. So I shall cover these and leave them to set, and we shall see what happens. So I shall see you in the demold. Bye for now. Right, these are all set now. So let's take this mould off. Okay. Ah, we did get some crackling. That's interesting. But I've thought of another way of doing it. So now to get the inserts out, I'm just gonna, because they're not 100% set, I'm just gonna bend the corner slightly, and there we go. And again with this one, just gonna gently bend the corners, and they're out. So let's look at this bit first. Oh, that's interesting. We've got scales on the outside, but not on the inside. Tiny bit of overflow, which will come off really easily. Just need to break the seal. Come on, you little monkey. Now I'm going to pick it up. Got it. There we go. Again, just a tiny bit of overflow. So we can take that off. And oh wow, I'm really pleased with it. Let me get rid of these so we can focus on what we've got. Oh wow, look at the cracks in that. Brilliant. Oh, and another one, look at that. Oh, this turned out really well. There. So our finished pieces, what I'll do is I'll just take that overflow off when it's completely dry, because it will just peel off. And I think there's room to put, yep, I will put feet on them. And then I will show you in the sunshine, because the colours, you can't see the colours, they're so pretty. And as I say, I've got an idea so that we can get dragon scales in that bit as well. Well, I've got an idea, it might not work, but I've got an idea how we might be able to get dragon scales in that bit as well. And this is matte, and I actually quite like that being matte, because it's different. So we have got scales on the outside, but just not on this bit. And I'd like scales in there if I can, so I'm going to try this again.